Good evening and welcome to Red Devils Roundup on the Balls Out podcast. We've had a little break. I say break, we've had the weekend off basically. Except for Mark, who's back. He's been abroad. He's been happy. Naomi's back, as always. More than a pleasure to have her along. Let's start with you, Naomi. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just finally over with the madness, the May madness, I feel like, with everything going on. So I'm happy to step into early summer and just vibe and watch irrelevant games.
Are
Good
you
time.
still going live to one of them? The one of the United games? In
Yeah.
Georgia, was it?
And Georgia, yeah, and Atlanta pre for the Premier League summer series. I found out
Yeah.
it's actually gonna be like two games. One's a United game and then there's another game right before. So I think it should be a fun day of like
Mm.
soccer and beer.
Awesome. Awesome. And yeah, meaningless games. Absolutely agree. Pointless, but great for fans like yourselves who have got the
Hmm.
opportunity to see the players and stuff like that. Speaking of players and people who are back, Mr. Langridge is back. He's been abroad. He's been living it up with Wayne Lineker and living the best life in Ibiza. How are you,
Fine.
mate? You good?
Yeah, I am back from my FIFA, and Wayne Lineker was next door with Jude Bellingham when I was in one of the other clubs. I was fuming when I found out later that day.
Wow.
I was in the club with the kids, and it was like a family day. And in O Beach next door, Matty Cash, Jude Bellingham, Wayne Lineker, literally. And I saw the pictures the next day. I'm like, I'm sure I could have blagged my way in.
You could have just slipped him. Yeah, just say I'm part of the Balls Out podcast.
Yeah.
Get me on the
Anyone
guest
want
list.
to do a one-to-one interview?
One-to-one interview with Jude Bellingham. That would have been an exclusive and a half.
Yeah.
But there we
So
go. No, it's good to have you back. Yeah, we've had a little bit of a break. Basically just had the weekend off. Nothing really to talk about over the weekend. But man alive, how much news has come out over the last 48 hours. We'll start from the order they happened. So we'll start first of all, June 1st, basically on the dotted line immediately. Mateus Cunha signs, done deal, £62.5 million from Wolves. I'm going to get Naomi's take on it first because me and Mark have spoken about this already, but he's got some very strong opinions on it. So, Naomi, the floor is yours. What do you make of that particular signing?
I mean, early summer signing, again, who are we? Like, we're acting like a proper club.
Mm,
I know we've been linked with him for like almost over a season now. So it's definitely exciting for us to be doing business in early summer. I'm really excited to see like how he fits in tactically. Wolves are again a scary team to be against, so to play against, so I'm excited that we have one of their star players. And yeah, it's great news. I know he still has to do like a couple of things, but the club themselves already announced it. I think we knew many days ago, so it's just a really great way to start off the summer. And I feel like today that's like one of the two big things we're celebrating on this episode.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. It's been in the pipeline for probably, we've been linked with him for probably the season and a half. Pretty ramped up in the sort of last couple of months where it was pretty much like the deal's been agreed, the medical was done pre the window opening. It was all sort of done, deal and dusted. It was just waiting for that window to make it official. So it was pretty much the worst kept secret in the Premier League at the time. Um, I think it's a brilliant signing. I think, yeah, he's got a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of an attitude problem. And to be honest, that sort of thing doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think that's the sort of arrogance we need at the club at the minute. But also he wasn't put off by no European football. He wasn't put off by the finishing 15th in the Premier League. He wants to join the club. It all seems. I know, obviously, his fat new wage is going to make a huge difference, but on the grand scheme of it, I think it sounds really good. Now, Mark's now going to tell me why he thinks it's I good or I bad. So I'm going to give it to you, Mark. What do you make of it? Now it's
So now it's
confirmed.
happened. Now it's happened. There were so many positives to it.
Mm,
Like everything you said, that mentality, that fighting spirit, that you know, giving it everything, die on the pitch attitude. Couldn't you, bro? I'm all for that. That is my kind of footballer, my kind of thing. My only fear, literally, my negative isn't a negative because hopefully it doesn't happen.
Mm.
Is the shirt weighs heavy, and if we're not playing well, will he lose his temper?
Yeah,
That's the fear. He has that in him because every player with that passion, that drive, that's what they have. They're walking the line every time they play. And that's my only fear that we can sort. But I would have thought that if I was this old I am now, when Cantona signed, I think everyone. I'm not putting him in the same boat as Eric Cantona. Let's clear that up. But that's what people thought of Eric Cantona, wasn't it?
mm.
Amazing talent, and he could go. Roy Keane, amazing talent, probably one of our best ever players,
Yeah.
can go. So I'm all for it. It's just my fear is if we don't build correctly, we bring in a player like that, and it could go the wrong way. It's a fear. It's not really a. It's something I don't want to happen because I think if we build the team correctly, with potentially the next player you're going to mention, I think that's going to help.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's a great signing. There's a few downsides. It's another Brazilian, so it's another person travelling back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, he doesn't actually play for Brazil because his position is Finney Junior's position, so he is second to him, I believe.
But a
But
lot of I agree with that. So there's a lot of feeling in South America and Brazil national team is that Cunha's made this move in the hope that now it's under Carlo Ancelotti's stewardship with the Brazil national team that Don Carlo is going to take a little bit more of a closer look at players like Cunha in the result of Vinny Jr. can't make such and such due to Real Madrid commitments, i.e., Club World Cup, etc.
yeah,
So there's he's also taken this chance because he wants to play in the World Cup next year in North America. Yeah, so I get what you mean. But when it comes to your point about if we're playing badly or losing, he may lose his temper and flair. I mean, I didn't watch enough of Wolves throughout the season, granted, but it never sort of occurred to me. You never really heard about it that Wolves have lost and Cunha lost his temper. The only real incident was in the FA Cup when he got annoyed with the Everton
yeah.
press officer and broke his glasses. But so
But playing for Wolves isn't playing for Manchester United.
no, of course, no, I understand that, but well, yeah. Historically, yes, Manchester United and Wolves are very different teams, but currently we're exactly the same team. Within points like wise in the Premier League, and I think this is a sort of I don't know how you feel about this, Naomi. I'll throw it to you, but is there an element of we've got a lot of Manchester United fans that have grown up? I include myself in this. We've grown up with the success and the trophies and the glory years, and now we just have to rest on our laurels that we are unfortunately not there. We need to understand that we are buying players from places like Brentford and Wolves, well, potentially Brentford, but Wolves per se, but we are literally on the same level as them. Do you see what I mean? Like, we're not the team we used to be, so we're having to rebuild from quite a low position.
Is she frozen?
What do you think, Naomi?
No, just a tough pill to swallow. I don't know, Nate. I haven't thought about it like that, honestly. I've considered us a very tough team, and like I think that's still why we're able to, not this year, but generally, like we're still able to like win those like marginal games, win those finals, get some sort of silverware. So yeah, I know where we are in the league, but like, and I feel like there's a lot of truth to that. Like we have to build from a certain level, and
Mm,
like we don't. I don't. I agree with you. With like not the entire fan base kind of understands where we are, I don't think even I understand it, to be honest, and like how and where where we're gonna like rebuild to. And I feel like that's why like sometimes some players get like a really a really bad rep, and like I mean like Mason Mount and stuff like that. I feel like he's part of the folks who's like helping us rebuild, but he still gets a lot of negative feedback and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a tough pill to swallow. I don't think I'd look at us quite like, yeah, we're just like a B level team and like we have to rebuild. I feel like our legacy and our history and the noise and the fans, like it still carries us up, even if we're not performing at like an A level team perform.
Mark,
Yeah.
go on.
Well, Naomi's right. It is. It's probably the biggest divide in our fan base. Depending on your age, is whether you know a successful Man United or an unsuccessful Man United.
Yeah.
Because we're at that point now, aren't we? Where 15 years. You could be 15 years old, so you're 30 overall, and you've really got into football after that, and you've never seen United win a league. I know it's
Yeah.
not exactly, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
but I see it as clothes shopping. If you haven't got the money, you can't go into Versace, Louis Vuitton, and buy what your neighbour is buying,
Yeah.
i.e. Man City. We have no money. We have all the clout in our name. Naomi is spot on with that. We are Manchester United, and we will always be Manchester United. And Cunha has turned down better clubs because the only team below. No, he's the Wolves finished below Tottenham, didn't they? So it's Wolves, Tottenham, us.
Yes.
So Cunha has only moved up 2 places, and that's where my fear comes from. If Man United doesn't come round and it doesn't pan out, he's still down the bottom. He hasn't, and he didn't. He decided not to go to a top, an Arsenal or a Chelsea or whoever further up the table. But who further up the table is bidding for our players? No one. No one. Sancho's being sent back. They won't pay the 25 million. They'll pay the 5 million and send him back to us. Even though he scores in the final for them, don't want him because he doesn't play. He played in literally the Mickey Mouse tournament because that is what that is now. That's worse than Carabao Cup. But he wants to play for the shirt, and that's why I want him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't really say more, but we don't have money, or we have more money than we like to let on because we've done a clever deal here, haven't we? We're not paying the first instalment till July.
Apparently,
So
yeah.
it's a different PSR bracket. Now, it was a weird one for Wolves to let us do because I'm sure they would have wanted the money in June for this year's PSR, whereas July is the next season's PSR starting date.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many teams are actually in for that 62.5 million? Because they could have got that money easier.
Yeah.
So, it's a weird one. We're paying in 3 instalments, but we're still paying that 62. It's not a one-off fee. So we got lucky. Because if I was Wolves, I'd be like, no, give me my 62 or you're not having him.
Yeah, there was a disagreement early on, wasn't there? Because Wolves wanted it all up in one, and then I think,
Yeah.
like you said, it's been negotiated that it comes in 3 installments. One now, one in July, because then it falls slightly differently with PSR, and then one midway through the season or the end of next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were lucky, but we're still having to negotiate. So are we Manchester United of the old? Manchester United went, I have you, face. Come here. We're not that.
Yeah,
team.
but that's because clubs we're now living in a world where clubs know how much money we've got and what we don't have. So we're paying Man United tax straight away.
But
And
we also
on the
don't have we don't have the medals to go with the Man United tax anymore. So the player wouldn't go, no, I want to go to Man United. This is the first 2 players who have said that in a long time. They've turned down other
Naomi,
clubs.
did you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I wanted to, talk a little bit about like that's like a big reason why I don't even get excited for like transfer windows anymore. I'm like, and I've said this so many times, but I'm like, I'm just gonna be happy when they come because they just drag it out for so long, and most of the time it's because they don't want to pay like that face value
Yeah,
plus the United tax. Um, and um yeah, like you said, Mark, we're not competing with like other teams like Man City or something like that. Like Amorim dropped it in his interview a couple of times. Like it was like some hints, but he was asked about not qualifying for the Champions League, and he referred to something across the lines of that now since they're competing in less and less leagues, they're gonna need like a tighter squad and like less players. And he's like with the FFP and stuff like that. From my understanding, it's already been communicated to them that they're not going to get a lot of players this summer.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, absolutely spot on. So, yeah, I think the consensus is that I'm personally really excited about Cunha. It just all depends on, like Mark said, if he's got a temper on him that we haven't seen yet, we'll just see how that plays out. Absolutely. Jonathan, you're still going to have to wait a little bit, I'm afraid. I can see your message there, mate. But next, obviously, like I say, we're going to talk about it in how the events happened. So we talked about Cunha signing on the dotted line, and then reported last night that Brian Mbuemo, Brentford striker, has chosen Manchester United over. Bear with me. So I'm having to scroll through the group chat. I'll talk about this later, but
I
I'm
destroyed the
having
group
to,
chat.
yeah, the group chat was destroyed by two marks, but we'll come on to that later. David Ornstein from The Athletic reporting last night that Brian Mbuemo decides he wants to join Man United, and MUFC are now expected to open talks with Brentford in a bid to sign 25-year-old forward this summer. The likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, Tottenham all interested in the Cameroonian, but he favours Old Trafford if deal agreed. Mark, I'll throw it straight to you. What do you think on Brian Mbuemo?
I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's been in the shadows of Brentford, and this was his breakout season. Bit hard to say breakout. I believe he's what, 27? 27,
Now you're
something like that.
throwing questions at me now, bro.
Oh, I've got it here.
Go on him.
But he has everything we've been asking for our tens to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's used to playing this format. See, that's the other thing. Cunha and Embuano, they're used to playing this double 10 role and a 10 that runs in behind the striker. So that's why I like both of these. Yeah, he's like a poor man Salah. That's the way I see him. I think he's in the same sort of category of where you put Salah. He scores, he assists. He doesn't care if he squares it and someone taps it in, and he's quite happy to put it away himself. I think he has a lot of potential, and he'll be very interesting. He's a very, very good player. His stats are both Cunha and him have better stats than anyone in our front three this season for goals
Mm-hmm.
and assists in the Premier League. This was something we were talking about earlier. I don't care about other competitions because at the moment we might as well be out of every competition because we need to get the Premier League back sorted.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm all for him signing. I'm a little bit dubious. I know this thing was put in. I can't remember the name of the journalist saying he wants 250 a week.
Yep.
I can understand that. What are Liverpool now paying Van Dijk and Salah? They're 400 around that mark.
Around that mark.
Man
Yeah.
City are playing multiple players around the 400 to 500 mark. It's 250 now, sort of becoming not that high. I know this is mental, but we're buying players. The overlap was talking about Adam Wharton potentially having to go between 80 and 100 million to get him out of Palace. And he's nowhere near what we would class as a 100 million player. But if you pay that kind of money, then you've got to pay that kind of wage.
Yeah, so the journalist is from the Times, uh, not disparaging that, but a lot of the comments on that particular tweet saying that he's a biased Newcastle journalist spouting fake news, and it's also got a link to the Times where when you click on it, it wants you to subscribe so you can carry on reading the link. But yeah, the article says Brian Bremo, Man United target, hoping for 250k a week. We're all hoping for 250k a week. I'm not even a professional footballer, and I'm hoping for 250 grand a week for me. That's not going to happen. I'm a HGV driver from Kent. It's not happening.
But if we sold Rashford and or Sancho, that 250k a week is still saving us money because of their high wages.
Yeah, but it's not
If
fitting
you
into
shrink
what.
if you shrink the squad and bring in
Yeah, yeah,
youngsters,
yeah, 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 yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
it's about getting that right. For me, that starting 11 has to be the right mentality of players.
He's on 50 grand a week at the moment.
That's the ridiculous part. We did this
So
with
he
Anthony.
so he wants £200,000 more a week. Naomi, your eyes lit up. What do you reckon?
I mean, it was going good until you said he's on 50K right now, or 50, whatever that is. But like, we brought this on ourselves, right? We
Yeah.
started paying them different wages, significantly different for like similar positions. And then it happened like within the club itself, like 2 years ago or something like that, when everyone wanted to be closer to like Sancho's wage, which was the highest at the time. Um, and I feel like we haven't really been able to like get out of that much like once it already happened. So I don't know. If it was me, I would negotiate a better like wage. You don't have to bring him up from 50 to 250. That's like a big leap of
Mm.
around 70%, like you said. But yeah, they're gonna have to manage that, especially because they're talking about a lot about like how they don't have a lot of money right now. So I don't know. But as a player, I think he's great. He's been on our radar for a long time, and we could really use his physicality in like that forward area.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think he would be a great addition, no doubt about it. But yeah, and then the fans are gonna be like, "Oh, why are we paying him this much?" And then it's just gonna be another negative feedback loop.
If he bangs in 15 to 20 goals a season, I don't care what we pay him.
So,
Yeah.
That's
so
exactly what.
the goals, 136 appearances in the Premier League,
Mm.
42 goals, 28 assists. So what's
Mm.
that? 70 goals of involvement in 136 games. 1 in 2.
1 in 2.
Yeah, that's insane.
That is
That
insane.
that's insane, right? Cunha, 82 games, 29 goals, 13 assists. 1 in 2.
What was Fergie's mantra? Buy players that are playing, buy proven Premier League talent if necessary.
Yeah.
That's what he always said. And this is what I've been harping on about for months and months. We've all been linked to these sort of European league unknowns that are banging it in the Bundesliga, banging it in Lisbon or wherever it could be, Jokeres, Florian Wirtz, just all these players at absolute anywhere that are banging it in their own leagues, but we end up buying them for inflated prices, i.e. Anthony, i.e. Hoyland, i.e. Xerxes, and they do nothing. And we're now going down the route of buying players that have played week in, week out and proving themselves in the Premier League. Yeah, for slightly enhanced prices, but if we end up paying, so it's come out today, Talksport reporting that Brentford are asking for 60 million for Mbeumo, as if that's a lot. No, compared
We
to what
just
we've
brought Cunha
spent,
for that.
we've just spent that on Cunha. We spend 120 million on players, 2 players this season, and we sell the likes of Rashford, and I'm sorry, Naomi, but Sancho. People like Garnacho need to go. People like, I suppose that's the only three, isn't it, really?
Anthony,
Oh, Anthony. Yeah, thank you.
Malacia, the
Well,
forgotten
yeah,
man. He was on loan at PSV. Literally
yeah.
totally forgot about him. He hadn't even been come up on anyone's radar, so he's been that bad.
Mhm.
Poor kid.
So Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw, yeah.
I
So
feel like we
all-
put a band-aid on all these problems, and we don't want to deal with them. And like now we have millions in like player assets that we can't actually play them though.
Spot
Yeah,
on, right? But
yeah,
unfortunately, the
absolutely right.
band-aid is a new contract.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy you, so we'll just give you a new contract and keep you. What? Just let him go on a free. For fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean?
At
It's
this
just like,
point, at this point,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So if Brentford are now asking for 65 million for Mbromo, I still see that as an absolute steal for the amount of goals and assists. Admittedly, these teams are playing different systems. Our system that Ruben wants to play is still very much, trial and error. It hasn't worked so far, but we're
No,
well,
Wolves play the same system as us. Wolves play 3-5-2.
right.
No, 3-4-3, because that was the thing when we played them. It was they were talked about on Sky. They're playing the same formation, new manager, and yet their team can do it and we can't.
Mm.
And Brentford used to play I think 4-3-3, but he was still 2 10s behind Tony. That's the way they played it. So Tony held the ball up, they ran in behind.
So on the basis that it looks like the Mbromo deal is going to happen, not for 250 grand a week. I can't imagine that happening. I can
No,
imagine it'll
150
be.
to 200, 200 max. I can see it, but
I can imagine it'll be 150 with add-ons. Goal bonuses, appearance bonuses, etc. So it'll probably get to 200, etc. But
renegotiate if you hit banging 20 goals.
yeah, absolutely. So if they end up being two signings, how are we going to play? How are they going to both fit into our system? Before we move on to the next player we're talking about.
How will they fit into our system? It's going to change our system from what we've seen to how it should be.
Mm.
You're meant to be playing what those 10s are meant to be pinging the ball around 1-2 and in behind. So it's a diagonal pass. That's what I would expect. When I watch Gyökeres, he's on the halfway line. It's either a ball over the top and he ran in behind for Sporting, or they played it wide and and it was a give and go, and the tens went, and the late arriver is the striker. So Mbano's got the pace. That's what he does. He goes in behind. Cunha's got the pace and the dribbling ability. So I now see 2 10s and a striker getting into the box. And we've spoken many a times, like, why did Rasmus not score goals? Because he's in the box with 4 centre-backs, sometimes, or four defenders, and they're sitting deep. No one else in there with him. So you've got to play the perfect pass to get the ball to him. Even if he makes a really good run, it's still a non-impossible pass.
Yeah.
So the more runners you have, the wing-backs are going to have to do more running up and down the wings.
No, that's it. That's exactly it.
So if you imagine, you almost get a front 5 when we get the ball. 1 in the box, 2 10s arriving late, and the wing-backs, 1 on, and then that's where your Bruno or someone can play the ball from late, from further back. But I still, I'm not sure that's going to work.
Naomi, if they're the only 2 signings we make this summer, are you happy or concerned?
That's okay, honestly. That's fine. Because I was just not expecting almost any signings, and then I thought we would also do like younger players like we did last time who are not 18 yet or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they prepared us for the worst, so I'm just like grateful for anything I can get. But like you mentioned earlier, not getting Premier League players has been a big issue, and we've learned that lesson the hard way. So yeah, if this is what we're gonna get, I mean, we can wait a little bit till winter and then maybe get one more player and then see, because our squad is still like relatively a new squad. And I'm just glad that we're getting someone on the forward. Hopefully more folks on the wing also, but just like an attacking team, that we're building an attacking team. I think that's like a positive. And if folks stay fit, which I doubt that they can stay fit traveling and playing how they are, but we might be okay for a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Mark, what do you reckon?
There's certainly the two areas we were lacking because when we come on to the Bruno parts later, our tens weren't scoring and weren't creating. These two players can score. They can score goals and they can, from their stats, show they create as well. I would be fine with our front three. I've got totally different feelings on Rasmus and Obi and as strikers. I'm still not sold on our Dutch sideshow Bob because I think he's more of a false nine. But I don't mind that. I love the way he plays. I love the way he gets on the ball, links the play up. But yeah, I want a goalkeeper. I 100% want a goalkeeper.
So you're not having Bayindir or Onana?
Bayindir is still holding his place down in the Turkey team. So
Yeah.
we underutilised him. That's one thing I will say.
Or is
Because
that a
there's a lot
case
of
of
good
that?
Turkish goalkeepers they could choose, and they still
Is there?
him in.
I can't think of any Turkish goalkeepers, which is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say.
There are, but he's still third choice. But if you look at an international team, you're not playing for your club. You tend to get dropped, and they bring in someone that is, unless you're an outright player, starting player, and he's not a starter. So therefore, he's like the number two. Onana, I've seen some weird stats about him. People are saying if you look at how many shots he's actually saved, he's had quite a good season.
Right.
But it's not about the shot he saves, it's about where he puts the ball after he saved it.
But that was also the same situation we had with De Gea, wasn't it? He was Golden Glove winner, but the amount of mistakes he made was exactly
exactly. You've got to weigh it up. Yeah, you make one mistake in a game, you lose 1-0.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right, but he made 20 saves that game. Yeah, but the goal he conceded was a really bad mistake.
I.e. the Europa League final.
Yeah. So, and I think we covered it before I went. The whole Emi Martinez, I would spite his hands up. Well, maybe not his hands, maybe his neck or something. Yeah. I don't know because he needs his hands. I would take him in a heartbeat. And again, Premier League proven, a commanding figure. Come on. It's about faces, isn't it? Can we get the right kind of people in? You have an Argentinian goalkeeper with an Argentinian centre-back. Great. I'm happy with that. The South Americans sticking together. And yeah, the only other one place, obviously we think we're going to keep Bruno. We need a replacement for Casemiro, and I don't think Ugarte has proven to be it, which I'm pretty sure I said from the start of the season he wouldn't be, but there's a reason we wanted Neves, and now he's got a nice Champions League winners medal. So
yes,
I think those are the two positions. I don't think we need any defenders. We've got 5 out-and-out centre-backs.
Yeah, I would agree.
So a goalkeeper and a holding midfielder, and I'm talking top quality holding midfielder if we're going to have Bruno still at the club. So because from deep, he has always, I think someone, was it in the group chat or somewhere else? There's a reason we had McFred when Bruno was in the 10.
Yeah.
Because he left us exposed. And you can't do that in a 2-man pivot.
It's all right. I'm sunburnt and I've just noticed I think I'm peeling and it really hurts. So I apologise. Yeah. Where was it? Let me read that. Was it you that said it? Are you just boasting about your own comment or? Oh no, Jonathan. Played McFred for 2.5 seasons to allow Bruno to do his thing. The only way we get away with Bruno playing as an 8 is if we play 4-3-3 with inverted fullbacks who fill the gaps in midfield.
Yeah,
I
I
suppose,
wouldn't go quite that far. You just need a top holding midfielder who can still play on the turn. Casemiro can't do that. I love him to pieces, but if you look how he's receiving the ball, we're passing it out and back to him, and then he's seeing the game in front of him. He's just not quick enough on the half turn anymore.
right. I suppose that brings us nicely on to our next topic, which is that Bruno Fernandes announced today that he has turned down the opportunity for £700,000 a week with an £100 million move to Al Hilal. And just before we came on air, he actually released a statement on it, which is very unusual for a player to decide to come out and basically shut down all the rumours and anything else. So it's interesting that you also got Player of the Month for whatever month we're in. Yeah, so this is the statement. It would have been easy to move there. I know the Portuguese players there very well, but I want to play at the highest level and compete for major titles. I can do that, and I still want to. I spoke to Amorim. He asked me not to go. Manchester United didn't want to sell me. Naomi, what do you make of that?
When like a last minute thing happens, like it's done and then it's like get pulled back out. That's how I feel. I thought it was done, honestly. I was avoiding the news because I didn't want to read the headline that was
Mm,
like, yeah, it's really done. Um, but also I think it was about almost a week ago when the numbers came out and people were very convinced, and then it kept getting dragged out. So I was just hoping for the best. But what a character, man. Bruno Fernandes won't leave his team. He's their captain. We've had a rough season, and something in him nudged him. Yeah, I think we spoke about it in another episode on this channel as well, where we spoke about how it's a big deal, the deal itself, and like that's big for the athletes themselves, even though they're obviously being compensated at a high level. This is like
yeah,
3-4 times what they make. And then also for his family and stuff like that. So I thought it was a done deal, honestly. I was like, yeah, the club is managed by some greedy personality. So I was like, they're gonna just take the money. But I'm really glad we pivoted. Um, I saw Amorim's. I think he was asked about it, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think he's going." And oh my God, I just remembered this one. But there is a video online of a fan. I think it's in Malaysia or Hong Kong. I'm pretty sure it's in Malaysia. But he goes up to Bruno and he's like, "Bruno, pinky promise me you're not gonna leave." And he pinky promised him just like 2-3 days ago. So this is so cute. I'm here to party. If you guys remember, about a year ago, very similar rumors came out.
mm,
Obviously, not as much as this, but he did like a whole letter to the fans. I was crying for hours. I was on that letter, but I just kept reminiscing to that letter, and I'm like, if it's up to him, I don't think he's gonna do it. So he's the captain, and I feel like he doesn't take that very lightly. And if anyone could have came out at the other end of this, it's Bruno. So I'm glad that we came out of it on the other side.
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I'm in exactly the same camp. I said it a few weeks ago. I just don't see it happening. I don't see a player leaving Manchester United for the money in a Bruno Fernandes figure. And if what we read is true and what he's saying is true, that he was basically, it also sounded like there was another piece to that. That's what was put on Twitter by Manchester United.
There was something to do with his family. He doesn't want to take his family there.
Yeah, so there was another thing here. Bruno Fernandes has confirmed that he rejected blah, 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 blah. Now he's spoken with Fernandes. Now he's spoken out with Fernandes revealing via transfer guru Fabrizio Romano. The president called me. I've rejected. I spoke to Amorim. He asked me not to go. Manchester didn't want to sell me, and they don't need the money. But if I wanted to leave, they would have made it happen. So that's the big part, Mark, is at the bottom.
Yep.
if I'd had wanted to leave, they would have made it happen. So United have given him, again, this is all hearsay. We're just going by what we're being told. That's all we
PR.
do on this channel. We're not going to talk shit and just make lies up. We are literally just reading what's being reported. So if you don't agree, bite me. But yeah, so basically, if Bruno wanted to go for the money, 700,000 grand a week, nobody would blame him. We'd all say thank you very much, thank you for your service, bye. But that's the big important statement at the bottom, is that if he wanted to leave, Manchester United would have done what they wanted, done what they needed to do to let him go.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate from like all the conversations. That was my understanding as well, that it was kind of up to him. I was more afraid that they would accept without consulting him too much.
Yeah, I
That
was the
was one
same.
of my fears. And then once it happened, like he would, you know how David Beckham left, right? Like I was kind of afraid we were gonna see something similar. And like once the deal had gone through or like it was initiated, then he would be stuck in a weird spot, and then the agents and stuff would have just kind of pushed it through. But yeah, I'm really glad we dodged that bullet.
So before go on,
I'm a
Mark.
bit different on it. I'm a bit different. Explain
Go
to
on.
me why it took you 3 weeks to release a statement then.
Well, I get the impression that there was no concrete offer from Al Hilal. I think they were asking Bruno beforehand, is this something you
They
would be
spoke with his
interested
agents, which is the way it's done. They speak with the agents.
in? That's
Well,
also called tapping up, which isn't allowed.
no, you can speak with the agent. You can't speak with the player directly.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So yeah, this is what the offer is. I think the club probably did accept the offer because you can easily say, yeah, we'll accept it, but if the player don't want to go, we're not going to force him out. It's all about wordplay, isn't it, and about how you put it
Yeah,
out. If you want to pay us somewhere between 100 and 150 million, we'll listen to you because he's 31. Yeah, any 31-year-old player, you're taking that. I think Harry Kane's now the benchmark, right?
yeah, probably.
So there's another side to this. This statement came out today, right?
Yeah, probably about.
Just as we went live, I was about to say something and I held off. Do you know who's been linked to be taking his spot at Al Hilal? Ronaldo on a free transfer.
Oh yeah, I heard that today because they went into playing the
Who's
Club
together
World
in the
Cup.
Portuguese training camp?
Yeah.
So
Well, you
it's all
reckon
about
Ronaldo's
positive PR for players, right? I can come out and say something positive. We can keep this quiet. You can stay in where he's happy there. He's taking the money in, and he can go play in the World Club Cup. The only reason Inter Miami are in the World Club Cup is because they've got Messi. Where did Miami finish? Nigh on rock bottom of the league. They've never been successful, so they shouldn't even be in it. But they're there because of the deal with Adidas and Messi. So it's all PR. But I'm happy he's staying. He's a quality player. I just don't feel he's going to fit our system.
coming in. Go on.
He's not disciplined. It's just purely his discipline. It doesn't matter what Man United channel you are, whether you're at the games, whether you're in the pub. Everyone says he runs around like a headless chicken. Away fans, everyone. Yeah? If we're bringing in a disciplined formation where everyone's got to do their jobs, he is the weak link in that respect that we have seen so far. But if we have quality players in front of him, in the 10s, up front, good, solid defence behind, he doesn't need to run around like that. That's where it becomes like the team leading itself, having leaders, having the right mentalities, right? So that's why I sit on the fence. I just don't see him changing his game style because he's been doing it for how many years now at United? 5?
5 years. 2020, January 2020.
Yeah. And, well, I'll just basically cover what I said and think. He didn't have as good a season as everyone said, if you look purely at the Premier League. 3 penalties, 2 free kicks, 3 goals from open play. He created 10 chances. Ahmad scored 8 from open play. Garnacho scored 6 from open play. Even Rasmus Højlund scored 4 from open play. They all had less shots than him.
Yeah.
He's meant to be a creative player. So if we drop him back into the 8, and I've said that to you however many times, that's why I see his best position. If he stays in the middle of the park and defends and becomes a box-to-box midfielder. The Jude Bellingham, the old school Keane, not Keane Vieira, like the ones before they were destroyers, when they were just box-to-box midfielders, a Lampard, something like that. That's when he could be next level.
Yeah.
When you stop looking at, he's created this many chances, he's created that many chances. He's creating chances. He takes our corners. He takes a lot of our free kicks. He hoofs balls over the top and they get chased. And if a defender misses them, it's classed as a chance. Stats are misleading. Just what do we see him do on the pitch? I see him give the ball away a lot in short passes. But that never gets brought up because he then hit a Hollywood ball and someone scores from it and you're like, get in. So I fear. I know Amorim wants him to stay because we all know he's a world-class player. He is a world-class player.
Mm-hmm.
But is he world-class in 3-4-2-1?
Right. I've been very quiet in the group chat today. 2 reasons. Because I've been driving all day. And the other reason is I just couldn't be asked to get involved until it got to the point, and I'll say this now, live to the world and to the nation, that it got to the point where I was going to go and find them where they both lived and flick them both in the earlobes, Mark and Mark. Because it was stemming on argument. It was, to be fair, friendly discussions and friendly debates I could handle. It was absolutely fine. Nothing came into blows. It was all good. Friendly debates. We're all happy with that. So, my feeling is a few-fold, but I'll start with the reason Bruno's not been as good this season is because he has been surrounded by shite. That's note number 1. He can't do it for 60-plus games a season. It's nigh on impossible. And to be fair, he's missed, 1 game, I think, this year? Pretty much played in every single
I think it's 5 games overall competitions, 1 suspension and maybe a pulled out.
So, in fairness, he's done his duty this year in a team and in a club in complete turmoil, and he's been the only one really that can reasonably hold his head held high above the rest. Ahmad's been good, not incredible. He's got us out of the shit a few times, in fairness, but again, he's only young, so we're not going to put any pressure on the kid. Garnacho has been appalling, in my opinion. His final ball decision making is horrendous.
Yep.
And that's what's going to cost him his United career. And the comments after the Europa League final basically gives him a free pass to go. So he said goodbye, see you later. There's nobody else really that can hold their head held high and say, I've done what I could this year, apart from Bruno. He's done everything he possibly can in a bad turmoil time at Old Trafford. Now, next point is, if you're signing players like Cunha and Mbeumo, just those 2, and you're telling me that if they turn around and said, oh, by the way, Bruno's leaving this week, so you might want to go and say, like, hi, bye sort of thing. How does that look? So what, it's the same situation we had with De Gea. Sold our best player that season, Golden Glove winner, and yet we made new signings and they were like, well, where's your goalkeeper from last year who was Golden Glove winner and actually, stopped you from being 12th? Oh no, we've sold him. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Oh right, okay. And then that just sort of another decline. So you can't make new signings. I'm not saying on the base you're not making new signings on the basis they get to play with Bruno Fernandes. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if you want to
players want to play with good players.
Yeah, good players want to play with good players, and if they see you started to sell your best players, well, then what precedent does that set for the rest of the team and the rest of the club? And my other point is like you just said, Mark, is that playing with better players in front of him will hopefully support the freedom that he deserves to have in that box-to-box midfielder creative role, because then he knows that he's passing the ball on to people like Mbeumo, like Cunha, that can then create further. He's not having to do the tracking back, the running up the pitch, then try and assist. When he can't assist, he has to then shoot, and then the ball goes wide because he's already run about 80 yards just to get to that point. So I think him staying is, without question, probably as big, if not bigger, than keeping bigger, if not better, than signing Cunha or Embremo. I think that is more an important bit of business in keeping it. We must stress, because of agendas that will attack the channel. He didn't technically say he wants to stay with Manchester United. He wants to play in a major European league, is what the words were being said across the world today. So there is still a chance, he may leave, but the difference is he's not leaving for blood, oil, money.
Exactly.
And I think that does make a big difference. If he did now leave, though, that would make him the biggest villain in Manchester United history, just saying, yes, Man United didn't want to sell me, we're not going anywhere, and then the next minute, oh, by the way, I'm signing for Barcelona or Real Madrid. So
yeah, if you thought Trent was bad, that might be worse.
yeah, that would be pretty worse. Just very quickly before I get Naomi's thoughts on what I just said, it is important to note, Jonathan just put this in our group chat about the Embuemo journalist that we were talking about earlier. Interesting to know that not a single journalist has disclosed Juan Embuemo's wage request, including the one who initially broke the news. Yet somehow a journalist from the north who covers Newcastle and is unrelated to either United or Brentford claims to know that Embuemo is asking for 250 grand a week. It seems like an attempt to appease Newcastle supporters with fabricated information.
Yeah, because too many people live on Twitter and just read anything. Man United creates clicks.
It just seems that there's a bitter and twisted Newcastle fan journalist who's a bit annoyed or a bit upset that Juan Embuemo is choosing Old Trafford over St James's Park. I don't know why he would choose us either. I really don't get it. I'm not going to lie. Why would you want to come and play for United when you can play for Newcastle? But
because he might see it. I'm guaranteed to start at Man United, and they can't get any worse. We all know it's a bad thing. Newcastle, they've done well. He's got to now get in that team. Who's he replacing?
He's got to try and get in. Yeah, Joel Linton.
That's the only one, because it isn't going to be Bruno Guimaraes or Tonali.
Tonali, yeah.
So it's only, and Joel Linton's loved by the fans.
Exactly. So sorry, Newcastle fans. I know you're not watching because I don't know what you're doing on a Tuesday night, but there we are. So
not playing in Champions League.
Well, yeah. We're not playing.
What do you think about Bruno?
Yeah, I have to agree with Nate a lot. Like, I feel like when he is, I mean, we've all noticed, the shots from like midfield, like shots way above goal that are like not even on target. But I have to agree, like he gets very frustrated when his team's not playing well or like when we're not scoring. And I feel like that kind of ends up with him trying to do everything himself and then obviously that not working out. But yeah, like with Mark too, like he's definitely taken like a lot of the corners, the free kicks, the penalties, this whole season. So I understand how the stats might seem like a little bit skewed, but I mean, I'm obsessed with Bruno Fernandes. He can like do no wrong in my head, so I'm like super biased.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's
I think I'm just too old school with it. Like, because
he wears his
armband, I hold him at a higher level.
You're not old school, you're just old.
I am just old, yeah. But if your captain is the guy,
I think we're probably the same age actually, so that's probably a silly statement.
If your captain's the guy taking the shots under frustration and smacking it over the bar, what are you setting as an example to the rest of the team? They're not going to stay calm because you're not calm. You're not turning around and playing the ball back to the centre back and starting again. You're, it's not a pass. I'm going to hit it from 45 yards wide over the bar, and we get counted, or I give it away. And we've seen it. We've seen it so many times. And then he starts waving his arms around or trying to get the free kick. And that's where maybe the Roy Keanes and people like myself are like, he's a great player, but the but is you're wearing the captain's armband. You've got to stay calm, because if you're calm, your team's calm. And this, that's not calm.
Yeah, that's a process. I feel like he's getting a little better than like before for sure, but it's definitely a process. And like honestly, who can blame him? Like, have you seen our team this year?
No, but you are
Yeah.
right. He was so poor, and he might as well take the shot himself. He feels he's got more chance of scoring, but that's not actually his job in the team.
Mm.
Mhm.
His job is to lead the team, to lead them to do
Just
better.
just to answer that question from Crowley 007, do you think we can sign Gyökeres or Osimhen if we don't sell Bruno? I don't think we were going to sell. I don't think we were going to buy either of those players with or without Bruno money. I don't think either of those players are on the basis of what we're looking at, i.e., Cunha and Embuemo, the sort of semi-proven. Like this is the first time we've dipped into our own market in that sort of Premier League proven player market. So the idea of going out and getting a Gyökeres or getting an Osimhen, for me, just screams mistake. Especially with the Osimhen, I really don't like the idea
Yeah.
of Victor Osimhen. I know there's a lot of love for him, but for me, wrong player. For us, Gyökeres, same sort of similar situation. He hasn't really got the baggage that Osimhen has, but there's still there's a reason Coventry got rid of him, and if you couldn't hack it in the Championship, to then go out, admittedly plays great for Sporting, but not the sort of
Well, Nate, there's another way of looking at it. Would you take Nunes from Liverpool?
right. Naomi's just going to head out quickly, so thank you so much, Naomi, for joining us.
Thank
Me
you
and
guys
Mark
so
will
much.
take the helm.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Yes, and I would
Love doing
pick
both.
Nunez from Liverpool.
No. The reason I asked that question is Gyökeres and Nunes very similar in their stats, age, and everything from the same league.
No worries. Thank you, Naomi. We'll chat to you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Take care.
There she goes. There she goes. She's brilliant. She's always brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, Gyökeres or Osimhen, not the sort of players I'm after at the moment.
No, I agree.
It gives us a chance now just to do a little bit of the BBC Sports gossip page, bit of a flick through, see what
Well,
things.
I'd just like to say there is one striker we've been linked with who I would actually take the risk on.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Go on.
Mitrovic.
No, fucking hell no.
I was going to say, go on.
How old is he? 40? No, Palace.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think
Jean-Philippe
he fits
Mateta.
our system perfectly.
I think Jean-Philippe Mateta would be an absolute coup if we could pull that deal off.
Yeah. If we could
So
get him, he is Premier League. Forget the Premier League proven. Like I say, Gyökeres is the next Nunes, potentially.
Mm.
Okay? We would not take Nunes from Liverpool, not because of the Liverpool link, so because he was shit and missed loads of chances. Gyökeres could be that same player in the Premier League. Forget what he's done in the Champions League, which is what everyone really judges him on. Mitrovic, I would sign him if we could get him on a free, but they're talking 50 million for him.
and he's going to want a really big sort of signing on fee because obviously he's missing out on a lot of tax-free dough.
Exactly that. But there's some kind of potential loan with him. So if they're still paying his money and it goes into a Saudi bank, he gets it all tax-free. I would bring him in. We need 4 strikers. I don't want. I think Rasmus will potentially go to Inter.
Yeah, so that's right at the top of the page. So according to Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy, Inter Milan are hoping to sign Manchester United and Denmark forward Rasmus Højlund, 22, on loan this summer. That we've been talking about that for a while. A loan move for Højlund would probably do him the world of good. I was hoping for sort of like a semi-top Championship side, in the hope that it might build his physicality and his strength, and
Totally agree. I don't want him leaving England. If he's going on loan, he doesn't leave England.
Yeah, so going to Inter probably isn't ideal, but Champions League finalists, although rather embarrassing. But yeah, so for me, that the rumor number one is Inter hoping to sign Højlund. So I wouldn't be happy with that, but if that's the only club that's willing to take him, unless that's the only club we've offered him to, I don't know. But
Well, I was listening to Paul Scholes about Rasmus. He made a really interesting point. And
Mm-hmm.
I've sort of mentioned this before, but I didn't think of it in the same way he mentioned it. Rasmus is 22. He's only 22.
Yes.
He has spent the last 2 seasons playing up front for Manchester United as a starting striker
Mm.
from the age of 20 to 22 with no one to get him out that team,
Nope.
no one to learn from. Right? We've got an 18-year-old coming through. 19 probably next season. He's
Yeah.
in the same boat. Xerxes is not a striker you're going to learn from because he's not a striker.
Yeah.
This is why Rasmus has got worse. Season on season, he has got worse.
No
Rasmus'
competition.
stats for his first season, the lapse stats, Rasmus is above him.
Mm.
And he's fallen off because he's been asked to play different systems, different ways. Just looks like a confused little kid in the candy store, don't he now? Like, I don't know whether I'm coming or going. So, like you said, loan into a championship team,
Build
yeah,
his
he'll
strength. Build his
learn that
physicality.
physicality. The reason Ahmad is so good is that Sunderland loan.
Sunderland, the Rangers line, absolutely. Yeah.
Stick him on loan to Sunderland for the season.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah, that'd be
Obviously
impressive.
not going to loan into Leeds.
Well, who went down? So either Leicester,
Ipswich, Southampton,
Ipswich, Southampton.
and Leicester.
I mean, if he went to Southampton, you could start doing loan watches for us. It's down your. I know it's probably an hour or so away from you, but
Yeah, even so.
if he doesn't go on loan and by some
need
miracle we managed to pull off a Jean-Philippe Mateta deal, which I personally believe might just be a bit above our reach, but I wouldn't rule it out. So it's being reported that
If Palace
competition.
get kicked out, we could get him. If they get kicked out of the Europa League because of
Yeah.
the joint club venture, we could get him. And that's a massive, massive if.
Yeah. So Juventus and AC Milan are the other two teams interested in Jean-Philippe Mateta. And on that front, the only other thing is to talk about is that Sancho is going to be returning to Old Trafford, which means Chelsea will be paying us £5 million for the privilege. Thank you. But there we go. And
I'm not sure how that deal got written. I've never heard of that in my life. Obligation to buy, but you can pay us money just to send him back if he's shit.
Yeah, so basically we've loaned him out with an obligation to buy, but if you give us £5 million, you can send him back.
Then there was no obligation.
Yeah. So basically they've just got out a Jetta free card and just handed £5 million over.
Yeah.
Helps with PSR, I suppose.
Which they probably saved on his wages that we were paying. They probably saved more than that on his wages, but we were paying.
And then, the last thing was that Everton, Manchester United, and West Ham could make a move for Serbia striker Alexander Mitrovic, with Al Hilal prepared to offload the 30-year-old.
It's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Not the Mitrovic. I've actually really rated him when he was at Fulham. Again, he's got a bit of a temper, just a bit, but he'll fight for the team. But that's how far we've fallen when you were in Manchester United, Everton, and West Ham are linked with the same striker. That's what I don't like hearing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right, we should probably end it there. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We are back on, I think we're back again Saturday night. Me, you, and
Saturday and Sunday, double weekend.
We're doing a double bubble this weekend, so we'll have another Red Devils roundup Saturday night with myself, Mark, and Mark Hanna will be back after taking a bit of a hiatus from all podcasting. So looking forward to seeing him back. And then Sunday is our big end of season Balls Out Premier League / general knowledge quiz. We've got quite a few people joining us for that, so really looking forward to that. And there's no money on the line. It's basically just for bragging rights, and you just get to be called Balls Out Quiz Champion for the season.
Who's the fastest typer, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm not going to have people writing it down so that they can potentially cheat, so we'll play around with the rules on that one. But yeah, really hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you have, just go over to our Twitter, follow us, keep an eye on all our socials to find out what shows are coming up next, and please like and subscribe. But for now, Thank you very much, Mark, and obviously thank you very much, Naomi, for coming on. And yeah, we will see you soon.
Take care.